Hello and welcome to the PA SHPO training on how to consult under Section 106 or the State History Code using PA Share. We're excited to share PA Share, Pennsylvania's historic and archaeological resource exchange, with you. This is the system that we are now using for conducting Section 106 and State History Code reviews. We believe you will find it collects similar information, and it also replaces the former project review form that you've been using. It collects this information electronically and gets sent directly to us, which helps to expedite our review process. Through PA Share, you'll also be able to see the history of project review in one place. It doesn't change our mandated SHPO review period of 30 days. But we believe that once the system is fully implemented, it will help us to improve our response times. To begin, I'd like to start with the PA Share home screen. You can visit this page at phmc.pa.gov/PA Share, and on it you will find some useful information. Particularly, I'd like to point out the frequently asked questions. These are updated weekly and include information on a lot of different topics, including environmental review. So I'd encourage you to visit those. Also, from the PA Share homepage, you're able to visit help materials, including several tutorials, signing in and subscribing, understanding the map interface, and one on submitting a new environmental review project. These tutorials are updated weekly. I encourage you to check back for more. Here's another link to the frequently asked questions. And if you do have any questions or need assistance with using PA Share, we ask that you send an email to our help desk, which is pashare@pa.gov. And we'll do our best to answer your question quickly so that you can continue to work in the system. So to get started, we're going to log into PA Share. So PA Share is available to those who have a CWAPA or a Keystone login account. If that's something that you do not already have, you can check out the tutorial on our homepage that explains how to actually get a Keystone login account. Once you have that account, you're going to begin here by signing in, accepting our disclaimer, and then you're going to use the citizen login choice that will pop up here on the screen in a moment. So the one here at the top, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Citizen Login, you're going to use that if you are a Keystone login. You enter your password, and that will take you to the dashboard, the home screen. So here you will find information in the bulletin board. If there are any updates on PA Share that we want to make you aware of, you'll find them there. You can also access certain functionality, including search, submitting, and subscriptions on this page. I'm going to go over in some detail later in the presentation the actual queues that are available here to the external user. I'm logged in as a basic user, so these are the queues I see. There is some more functionality if you had a professional or business account, and if you're interested in those things, you can go over here and check out subscribe to PA Share. But you can submit a project using a basic account, and we're going to go through how to do that now. So if you have a new environmental review project, from the home screen, you want to click on the Submit button here at the top. Then you're going to go to the Environmental Review wizard to enter your project. So here we click on Visit. So to submit a new project, I'm going to go over a few basic items first. Features that you see. The red asterisks are following every field that's required. So not all fields are required on the screen, but those that are marked with a red asterisk. On the right-hand side of the screen is help that explains what is needed in each of the sections of the submission screen. And you'll notice down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there are 3 action buttons that are always visible as you scroll. Save and continue allows you to save your work as you go along. Generally, the system times out after 30 minutes of inactivity, so it's a good idea to save your work. Finish later allows you to save your work and return to it in PA Share later, and then submit to SHPO. And that's what you use when you've finished entering your project. Before we begin data entry of this project, it's important to remember that your information that you provide should be as complete as possible. Incomplete information could lead to delays in review times. So you begin by adding a primary contact on the project. This is the person who will be responsible for receiving SHPO requests for more information, and it will be the direct contact on the person on the project. And you fill in your contact information. Mine has already been completed because I updated my profile. If you want to update your profile and make sure the address always completes when you go to add a contact, you can simply go into View Profile, edit it, and then complete the address information, and then save it. So you probably want to do that before you begin entering a lot of projects, update your profile. So I've made myself the test self the primary contact on the project. You also want to add any secondary contacts. Those are others who should receive notifications of SHPO responses and submissions to our office through PA Share. You know, staff can change, so we encourage you to include more than one person as a project contact, because the project contacts are the ones that receive emails and notifications from the system about any kind of SHPO comments or responses. And anyone listed as a contact is able to see all of the information on the project. If you're submitting on behalf of an agency, this is where you may want to include the agency contact if you actually know that. So we're going to scroll down here to the project overview, and this is essentially basic information on the project, and you can support this using project documents that will get attached at the end of the screen. So you're going to see that the information we're requesting here is very similar to what we requested in the project review form as we go along. So we're going to begin with the project name. I'm going to be entering a demolition project in Harrisburg. So, and you'll see that just popped up there. It says this field is required. So you can tell that that's one that we can't move forward without completing. So I add the project name. The project description. This is essentially a brief narrative of what the project will entail. And this is often included in your letter or your scope of work. And this field is limited to 1,000 characters, so you can add as much as 1,000 characters. If you need to include more, you can just provide that as an attachment down under project documents. So I'm going to cut and paste into this location the actual description from the submission that we received. Okay. If you want to be able to see everything in this field, you are going to have to pull down the screen in the corner. You can manipulate the field. Present land use, you include a description of current conditions. So this is residential property, so I'm going to put present land use is residential. It's also vacant, but it's in a residential community. Previous land use, here we include a description of past land use or modifications to the property. And we're trying to understand, one, if there's previous ground disturbance, if in the area, if there was a potential to affect archaeological resources, or if there might have been changes to the building over time. This is a residential building, so it still continues under residential use. The project is not going to involve a lot of ground disturbance, but there is going to be some fill. If they demolish it, they're going to have to clear the site. So I'm going to check involves ground disturbance. That's not always the case for demolitions, but it could be. And I know that they're actually going to affect a resource 45 years in age or older. They're going to demolish it. So I'm going to check this box as well. The building is built in 1895, so I'm going to add the approximate age, and I'm taking this information from the project submission. The project includes demolition. There is no new construction planned. This building has been condemned, and so it's just a straight demolition. The next section on the screen are agencies. This particular project, I'm going to select an agency. I'm going to choose HUD. And this is our Community Development Block Grant Program funding, so I'm going to add that there. If I had a tracking number for the project, I would include that as well. Now you can add multiple agencies. Let's say that I knew that this was a HUD project, but there was also the potential for some state involvement from DCED. Or let's say there was going to be a DEP, Department of Environmental Protection permit, I could add that. When you add a federal and a state agency, the federal agency will appear as the primary. But you can add multiple agencies. You can delete agencies. You can, if you have more than one, make one the primary and the other the secondary. Again, there's a lot of things you can manipulate here. So once you get your agencies added, then you can scroll down to project location. One thing I want to note, agency contact information can't be added here. If you had a contact for an agency that you were working for that you wanted to make sure they receive the correspondence on the project, then you would add that up above in the project contacts at the beginning. So project location begins with where the project is located. Typically, it's, we're looking at private property for these kinds of demolitions. Then I'm going to enter the address of the property. Sorry. Get my 418 Moint Street, Harrisburg. Now, one thing that did not previously appear on the project review form that we're including in PA Share is the APE, which is the area of potential effect. This is defined under Section 106 as the geographic area or areas within which a property or project may directly or indirectly cause changes in the character of historic properties. So the project determines the APE. And for the APE, we're largely focused on the potential to affect above ground resources. So here we're thinking about things like, physical changes to the buildings. If it was a large new construction project, maybe like a 12-story building in a downtown where most of the buildings are 3 and 4 stories, the APE could be bigger than just that immediate parcel and include everything within the viewshed. So in the APE description, you want to note the area of potential effects. So I'm going to say includes tax parcel for building to be demolished. If this building was attached to an adjacent building, I might also include the adjacent building. The LOD refers to the limit of disturbance, and here we're focused on archaeological resources. And the limit of disturbance should include any area where there is going to be earth disturbance for the project. This could be a demolition with backfill, like this one, or if there was going to be new construction at this location, that would require earth disturbance. There's a lot of things, sewer laterals, utilities, that would include access road, any kind of staging area. All of those fall within the LOD. Okay, so I'm going to say includes footprint of building to be removed and backfill of former location. So at this point, I am going to map my project. I can click on this button to zoom to my project address, or I could enter it here, but I'm going to zoom to the project address. What you will find is that the map is going to center on the project location. So when you zoom to project address, this is the center of the map. This resource was previously identified, as I can see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map that location. Now here I'm in an urban area. I am looking at a map that was provided to me with the submission, and I can see exactly what the footprint of the building is in the tax parcel. So I'm going to use that. I think I'm going to turn on some aerial imagery to help me better delineate this resource location. A little more on the map and the mapping tools. Again, if you want to find an address, you can just enter it here and it'll zoom to that. You can use zoom in to really help you, be a little more precise in your mapping. There are different layers, including the aerials. There's the original 7.5-minute topo maps that we used in CRJS. There's street maps. There's a lot of different options here that you can choose from to make your base map. But again, I'm going to just use the aerial imagery for this. There is ability to turn off and on layers. If you were in the middle of a historic district and you wanted to map a resource, let's say, for example, there was you wanted to map something over here under this actual polygon for this unevaluated district, you could go into the layers and you can turn a lot of different things on and off. So if you want to turn off the whole map to make it easier to map, you can click on the I beside PA Share Map and just turn that off, and that'll turn off all the resources. But there are a lot of different layers here, and you can check our mapping tutorial for more information on that, but you're going to need to turn off the layers if you're in a district. And if we have those layers on, this actual bottom option explains the legend. So if I turn this back on real quick, sorry, let me turn the PA Share Map back on. You can see the different notations of National Register eligibility. So this orange polygon is an undetermined district, and these blue circles here are National Register listed resources. But I'm going to go back and turn off the PA Share Map and zoom back to my project location. So I can go ahead and map my APE. If you have a hard time seeing this and you could zoom in, but if this was a really big APE, rather than trying to map using this smaller map, you can expand the map using the tool here in the lower left-hand corner called Enter Full Screen. So now we have the whole map taking up the screen. I'm going to zoom into the location. Now, for more complicated projects, I'm actually going to map this, but for more complicated projects, if you go down here in the lower right-hand corner, you can actually upload GIS shapefiles to get the boundary of the project. Probably if you don't have that opportunity or option, then you're going to want to use the sketch widget or the pencil to draw the boundary. When you click on that widget, this window pops up. There's two options, APE and LOD. We're going to first draw the APE for the project. We said that that APE included the tax parcel where the building is going to be demolished. Again, because there's an adjoined building here, we could have drawn it to include this building as well, because there might be some potential for effect to this adjacent building. So let's just draw both of these in the APE. So I've started on the back of the property line. And as I set the points of where I want the corners of these to be, I'm left clicking on my mouse, okay? All right. And I look at that and I say, oh, it's a little crooked and I want to delete it. I click on the polygon again with my left mouse button and hit this trash can here at the bottom of the sketch widget window, and that deletes the feature. I have to zoom back out here again to get the APE. Again, I left click on my first point, drag the mouse, left click on my next point, drag the mouse, left click, drag, left click, and then left click when I close the polygon, okay? So I've drawn my APE and I'm happy with it. I'm going to move over to my LOD. Now, I would say the LOD is probably going to be the area where the building will be demolished. So a couple things to know about the LOD. One really important thing is that it cannot extend outside of the APE. And the second is it's just the area where there's ground disturbance. So I'm going to make my LOD a little smaller because it's not going to include the adjacent building. And I'm going to say it's centered here on the actual building where they're going to put the fill and do some grading. So I'm going to just draw it as this corner of the APE, but I have to be careful not to go outside of the APE because if I do, it would not accept it. So there I've drawn my APE, the yellow or orange with a purple boundary, and then my LOD is blue. If I'm okay with those, I'm going to get out of the map, full screen map, and go back to the submission screen. And if you take a look, you can see that we've mapped it, LOD in the APE, and the computer has completed the municipalities containing the area of potential effect, including the city and the county. It appears that this resource was previously documented within the APE. So this section, resources within the project area, we are asking that if you're actually going to affect a resource, that you data enter it here, okay? If it's something that's previously identified, so this one is, you would go in here and click on Update Info. The system is going to present you with the information that was previously provided on the resource on the right-hand side. And if you have anything to update or change, you would do that on the left-hand side. I'm just going to quickly take you through the screen because this is a resource that was recently entered. But here you can see the original information. And if I wanted to update that, like if the address had changed, I could do that here. But the address is the same. The boundary that was originally mapped was actually just this little circle on top of the building, which is a little off. I could edit that. I'm not going to do that right now, but you could. There's not any photos in here, okay? So I'm going to add a photograph. Photo source, if you're taking it from your computer, which we prefer, you send us an actual file, then you choose File from Local Disk. This will then connect to your desktop and allow you to upload a photograph. I'm not going to do that right now. Oh, you can also update the name of the resource. Looks like we have the same name. Here's the one that came in originally. Here's our update. Historic function, it has it as domestic. I would say it's not just domestic, it's domestic single dwelling. So I'm going to update that. So now that appears. Current function, I know it's vacant. That wasn't entered previously, so I'm going to add vacant. Oops, sorry. Vacant, not in use. Save. For each of these tabs, you have to click Save when you're finished. It says the foundation is brick. I'm going to disagree and say the foundation is stone. Going to add a wall material, brick. And then the roof says rubber. It could be rubber. I can't really see it well from the photographs. And then the style is Second Empire. If you do not know the style, you can pick unknown, okay, which is down at the bottom there of the screen. I'm not going to add a style right now because the style is correct from the original submission. Owner category is required and it's still private. Year built 1895, good. So you'll see the red asterisk is required for year built. It's not required for any of these other fields. You should complete these to the best of your degree, but again, this information is not required. Adding a recorder is. The reason would be for environmental review that this is being documented, and I'm going to add my test person as the recorder. Now, if I like to save and submit this, I got save and continue. It's telling me errors exist. The resource cannot be saved. I believe the reason it wouldn't let me save is because I didn't add a photograph, and I don't want to update this record at this moment, so I'm not going to. But as you can see, this is where you would add information on an existing resource. Existing information on the right, updated information on the left, and we really appreciate your help in keeping our files updated. And this information will then be reconciled when it comes into our system. So I'm going to close out of this. If this was a new resource that we wanted to add, you would click on this button and add building resource. And typically, again, you will not be sending in information on resources unless you're proposing to demolish them or alter them significantly through like a large addition. So typically you're not required to provide this. And if you don't send us this information, we can ask and you request you provide more information. So if you don't get it to us, we'll ask you later. So this screen, you can begin by adding the address. Okay. Again, it's going to zoom to the project location. Oops, I think I've zoomed out too far. So let's say I lost myself. I'm going to enter the address here, and it will zoom to the project location. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to map the building. We're pretending that this is a new resource that's being entered for the purposes of this training. I'm going to map the boundary essentially as the current tax parcel. Okay. And that's a little crooked, so I'm going to delete that and remap it. And you can see that the base map I'm using here has somewhat of a boundary for the building footprint. So I'm going off of that, which is slightly different from the area of potential effect that was mapped in the LOD. I need to add a photograph. So I'm going to note that this is the southeast elevation. I'm going to add a date. And then to actually upload the file, I'm going to select File, find it on my computer, and upload it. The photos that you include here should be clear color photographs that convey the appearance of the resource. Okay. So you'll see that I then get this thumbnail with the information. And so that will appear on the resource screen. There will be that thumbnail to show what the resource looks like. The location information on the resource has already been populated. And now we get down to the summary information. For those of you that are familiar with our abbreviated HRSF, the summary information is the basic information that was on that form. The fields that are required essentially are the abbreviated HRSF. So we're going to add the resource name. I'm going to call this house because I don't know the historic name. I'm just going to call it House 418 Winch Street and say that's the current name. If I knew the historic name, I could also add additional names. Resource classification, this is a building because it's inhabited by humans. Structure would be something like a garage, or is primarily used for non-human habitation. I can add a historic function. Again, for a dwelling, it's going to be domestic single dwelling. If it was an apartment building, we could use domestic multiple dwelling. But you can scroll through the options here, which are the National Register functions, and decide which works best. If you have questions, you can always contact our staff. So domestic single dwelling, I'm going to save, add a current function. Well, right now we know this isn't vacant, so we're going to save vacant, add a foundation. Kind of already went through all of this when we were updating the resource. Again, I'm just demoing adding a new resource, and I've demoed updating a resource. You wouldn't be doing both. You'd be picking one or the other, but for the purposes of time, I'm demoing both here on the same building. Add a wall material. I'm going to use brick. Roof material, let's say asphalt. Click on Save. Style, we've said that this is Second Empire. You may have seen the mansard roof on the building. So Second Empire. Your owner category is going, in this case, to be private. Year built 1895. We're not 100% sure that's the year built. We don't have a date stone or very specific information. We just have the information from the submission. So we're going to say circa, which means approximately. And we could complete this additional information, but you'll see that fields I've completed so far are the ones with the red asterisk. So there's more here we could add, or we can keep scrolling down to the next red asterisk, which is recording reason. Environmental review. The date was in 2020, November of 2020, and I'm going to add myself as a reviewer. If it was someone different, I would have to edit this information. Okay, so I've added the recording information. Now, if you remember, I said that if you had additional photos, I don't know if I said this, but if you do have photos, you could just add one on the resource and then you can add the rest as an attachment. Let's say you had photo pages, so, or maybe you had historic photographs of this building, or maybe you have a chain of title of history, or floor plans. Any of that information you would add here under attachments. These are going to be the photo pages. So actually you don't have to fill in description on attachments. You can just put in the description and the title of the document. And then I'm going to save the file, upload it to PA Share. So This now lives on the project in PA Share, okay? The photos and this information, the photo pages live on the project as a resource, and it's going to live on the resource screen once we accept this. So we are creating a resource in PA Share, similar to the resources we had in SiriusJS. So when I'm finished here, I would hit save and close. And then that information would get added. Here's my new submission. And finally, to go back to the project, we are requiring or requesting for environmental review that you do what you did before, that you attach a PDF with all of the information in one document. We can handle up to 70 megabytes in file size here, so we'd encourage you to put all the photographs, the project description, and the plans in one document and then upload them to PA Share, okay? So we're going to say plans, photos, project description. I think there was a site plan in here as well. It's always going to be document as your attachment type. When you're posting photos or anything, I just select document. If it's a photograph, you can use photos, but for everything else, use document unless you're sending a report. And then select the file, upload it, and it will appear on the project. So again, we're requiring a photograph on the resource. For the actual project submission, you can just attach a PDF with the photo pages. And again, we're looking for clear color photos. If we need more information, like if we don't have enough photos and we have to ask you, then that information will be a second submission and the review clock starts over. So try to be as complete as possible. So if I hit submit to SHPO, which I'm not going to because I don't want to create this project, but if I did hit submit to SHPO, the screen that would pop up is the one that you see here, okay? So it would say, thank you for your submission. It should say thank you for your submission. Not sure why that won't come up. So this is the screen you would see. It's going to issue a token number. That means that your submission has not yet been turned into a project, but we have your submission. You, as the primary contact, are also going to get an email that says this. We've received your initial submission and an initial token has been assigned, okay? Once we actually take a look at that and it goes into our system, you're going to get this email. So this one appears when you go ahead and create and add a project contact. When you're trying to create a project, this initial submission token gets assigned. The minute that you submit to SHPO, this initial submission received email gets generated when the system receives the submission. Okay, when you say submit to SHPO and it's complete. Then if you require, if we require additional information, then you're going to see initial submission requires additional information. And there will be a link here in the description. So PA Share Environmental Review initial submission requires additional information to complete submission. The comment is, please provide additional project documents or information to make this a complete record. So someone forgot to upload an attachment. They click on this link, it will take them directly to the screen where they have to add that attachment. So this is for an insufficient initial submission. If your initial submission is accepted, it's complete, it's turned into a project, you will see this email. And essentially what this gives you is a project number. You remember the ER number? That is now a project number, and it includes a year the project was created, PR for project, and then a sequential number. And then it'll also have the project name. So here we have Project number 2021 PR 02974, Walden's View is the name of the project, so it's been created. And if I click on this link, I would be able to see, that it's been accepted, but there'll be one more email that says submission response for environmental review. This submission response means we've responded. And down here you see further action on your part may be required to respond. It says it's an initial submission and I can access it here, but somebody has reviewed it and there's a word response in the header of this email. So that means that it's time to look at our response. So I'm going to click on the link of that actual email and take you to the response screen in PA Share. And I want to just remind you that until the project is actually turned from a submission, until it's accepted as an actual project in PA Share, until your submission is actually accepted as a project, you are going to be the only one getting those emails as the primary submitter, primary contact. Once it's accepted, everyone that's a contact will begin getting the emails. So the agency you added would get the response email that would take them to this response screen. Okay. This response screen includes 6 parts. There's the submission details. So this is basic summary information about the project. And if you wanted to actually go and look at the project, you could do that here. The SHPO responses, this is our overall review decision. So for environmental review, this will include 2 responses, one for archaeology and one for above ground. You can see that I had no above ground concerns and Kim Sebastian had no archaeology concerns. Our more specific comments are here in SHPO comments. I specifically said no effect to above ground resources. So did Kim. This particular project that we're looking at the response screen for was just interior improvements. So there was no potential to affect archaeological or any historic features on above ground resources. Then if there was a request for more information, that would appear here and you would click on that and process it and it would take you to where you'd need to add an attachment. Or if we asked for a survey or a new resource, that it would take you directly there from this SHPO request more information section. Finally, if we actually wrote a letter for the project, which is rare, we generally don't write a lot of letters unless we have specific concerns, you would find that right here. You can see this is an old project that had a project review form as its review response, so that's here. But ultimately, what you're probably going to be most interested in about this screen, if we've both above ground and archaeological reviewers have responded, is the print summary. So down there in the bottom right-hand corner, hopefully everyone saw me click on this button. That generated a PDF. I'm going to open the PDF and you can download this or print it. This is our response. We had the signed project review form previously. So the project review form is going away, and this is now the official SHPO response, assuming that we don't have a letter. Now, if this was a project where we also wrote a letter, then the system-generated response would say, please see the letter under attachments on the response screen. But this is one where we responded within the system, and this is the system-generated response. Includes the date when we responded, the primary contact information, some information on the project, including the number and the name and the agency and where it's located, and then the above ground and archaeological responses. So again, this is probably going to be what you're looking for environmental review. But if you have a project where we've asked for more information you're going to need to look under SHPO request more information. And if we're asking you to look at attachments because we wrote a letter or maybe we're directing you to some guidance, those would be here. There's this help here on the right-hand side of the screen that you will probably find useful. And again, the print summary and any letters on this screen, those replace the project review form. So you might be wondering if the only way you can get to this screen is through the email. The system-generated email is one way of getting to the screen. The other way is through this queue here. So I noted, here's the home screen. At the beginning of the presentation, I would go through these queues. This particular queue is not, this particular user doesn't have a lot of projects, but I'm going to walk you through these queues. Here's the Walden's View project that was submitted. And so there'd be a list of all my projects. If it's open, it would show here. If I clicked on closed and I had closed projects, they would show here. So if I want to actually see this project and what was submitted or any attachments, I click on Go To. It would take me to the project screen. And the project screen includes some basic information on the project. It includes a map. It lets me know this is under review. So see there, it's zoomed to the project location. It tells me that this is a refinancing project for HUD. And it also includes some information on the various submissions that have been made. You're probably not going to access this regularly. If there are project documents, you would find them here on the screen as well. But I wanted to just point that out. Second in the queue are my submissions. So you can see that I've begun a lot of submissions in PaShare that I haven't submitted because I've been using this for demonstrations. So let's say you start a submission and you hit save and continue. Remember those buttons in the lower right-hand corner, or finish later. This is where you would come to finish the data entry. So you click on the Go To, and it's going to take you right back to the screen where you were working on the data entry. You can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, this is a submission token, so it hasn't actually been submitted yet. Once you make that submission, you'll get that screen with a token number and an email. So this is still in draft form. If I had submitted it to the SHPO and it was never accepted as a project because it was insufficient, it would appear in this list. If I've submitted it and it's waiting for review, it would appear under submitted. And finally, those projects that I have submitted and they've been accepted and turned into projects, those appear here under processed. So if you want to access something you've been working on, you can simply go to your home screen, go to My Submissions, and find it under Drafts. Or if you get an email that it was insufficient, you could find it under Insufficient. Okay. My request, this would be any request the SHPO made, like if the SHPO asked for more photographs. You would find that here. You click on Go To finish that submission. And then we had talked about the response screen. How do you get there? You can use the link in your email, or you can come here on your dashboard to SHPO responses, and then click on Go To, and it will take you to that response screen. So that gives you a few avenues for accessing information in PaShare. And I wanted to point out here at the top of the screen, I can tell I'm in response mode. This is the name of the project, Walden's View, and here is the environmental review project number. So there's a good summary even up here at the top in the title bar. If I go to the project page, this will change to project from response to project, and then I can see the name of the project and the project number up here as well. If there were resources on the project, they would appear on this screen. They would be mapped and included here. Same thing with surveys. And so there's a couple tabs to the project screen. One other thing that I wanted to note before we conclude this is if you need to search for a project, let's say that there's a project you already started consultation for, and you want to pick it back up again, but you did not start that consultation in PA Share, okay? And you want to figure out what the project number is. You can go in here under search, and under quick search, you can look for the project name, or you can go under projects. If you actually have the number of, the ER number of the project, you could enter that here. So I'm going to enter an ER number. As you'll see here, the ER number is not called that anymore. It's called legacy project number. So I data enter my ER number, I search, my project comes up here in the results tab. There are ways to toggle to make the map bigger, to make the results bigger, and to make the criteria search on the left bigger here in the search screen. So you might find that helpful, but here's my result. I have a project that I already submitted on, and I want to submit some additional information. Well, what you're going to need to do is email SHPO staff person, because here I clicked on go to go to that project, and it says I got an error. It says error while fetching data. That's because it says check project by contact email. It's because I'm not a contact on that project. I can't access that data. We did not have your email addresses in our old system where we kept track of projects. So if you are submitting on an existing project and you are not a project contact, you're going to need to reach out to your reviewer and email them and let them know the project ID number and that you want to be added to as a project contact so you can send additional information, okay? So let's say I do know a project where I was actually, and I know I'm a project contact, so let's pick this project that we've been looking at, Walden's View. I'm going to look it up, make sure I know the ER or the project number for the environmental review project. I'll look that up. I'm going to go to submit, and this is, if it's an existing project, I'm sending additional information. I'll click on project supplement, and I know my email address and that I'm already a contact on that project. Then I will enter the project number here. And if I am a contact, it will bring up this screen that allows me to send additional information. I want to make it clear that this screen, the project supplemental screen, is meant specifically when you are sending information that you want to provide to us that we didn't ask for. If we had asked you for information, you could simply go into your home screen and your SHPO requests and add it there, or at the response screen under the more information requests, you could add it there. This is only when it's unrequested, not asked for by the SHPO, will you use the project supplemental submission. A common example of that is the plans for the project have changed, and you want to let us know. You could note that in the description and how they've changed. Then you could attach the project documents and then submit it to our office. So that will go on to a reviewer. So again, to go back to the home screen and review, this is your dashboard. If there are any SHPO requests, you'll find them here. If there are any SHPO responses, you'll find them here. If you're working on a submission that you didn't finish, you'll go into under my submissions to drafts to finish that. And your open and closed projects are under my projects. If you want to make a submission of a new project, you will use the Environmental Review Wizard, If you want to send additional information on a project that's existing in the system, information that we did not ask for, then you would use the project supplement, but you would need to be, your email would need to be included as a project contact. And so if you aren't already a project contact, you can't access that project screen, then you'll have to email the reviewer to get them to do that for you, and then you'll be able to send unrequested information. Once you data enter a project using the Environmental Review Wizard, you're in the system on that project. You can easily go in and use the project supplement if you want to send unrequested information. The issue comes in on our old legacy projects that transferred over into PA Share, and we need to get you updated as a contact. So if that happens, let us know and we'll take care of that. So I believe that concludes our training for today. Again, I would encourage you to go to the PA Share home screen and take a look at the variety of materials that are there, especially the help materials. But there's also information on login credentials if you need to set up your Keystone login. There is information on the subscriptions. If you're an archaeologist, professional archaeologist, you can request access to see archaeology information here. So please take some time to look through that. And again, if you have questions, you're going to send them directly to our help desk, which is pashare@pa.gov. Thank you.